Hello, welcome to the Azure Kubernetes deployment series. In the last lab, we have already know how to provision the resources using Azure CLI command line tool, push the Docker images to the ACR using Docker desktop command line, and deploy the application into AKS cluster using kubectl command line tool. So in this lab, we are going to learn how to uh, do all these tasks using Azure DevOps pipeline. So for that, let's go to the GitHub repository. Here I have mentioned all the steps. You can see in the new repository, we have added another folder here, Azure DevOps. In that, we have included a couple of YAML pipelines, and these YAML files are used to create the build and release pipelines for provisioning the resources as well as building the Docker images and deploying into Azure Kubernetes. So you can see here we have this Azure DevOps folder, and under that we have a couple of YAML files. So in order to do this automation, I mean building the building the building the Docker image and deploying it into the Azure Container Registry, deploying the applications into the AKS, also provisioning the infrastructure. So we have followed the Azure pipeline. So the first step is here to create the to set up the Azure DevOps. Next, we have to create a infrastructure pipeline. The third step is we'll use the build and you will create the pipeline for build and push the images to ACR. Next step is we'll deploy the application or images to the AKS using release pipeline. Then we'll validate the application, and at the end we will clean up the Azure resources. So in order to set up the DevOps uh, project, here we have um, we need to create an organization, and we have to create a project and provide the required permission. So you can see here I have the git gitops org. This is my organization, and under that I have created a project, gitops project, and under that I have the pipelines and other things, like we have a repository, all the things here. So so the next step is we need to once the Azure DevOps is set up, then we have to create a infrastructure pipeline, and this infrastructure pipeline purpose is to provision the resources in Azure cloud. The next step is we have to build and push the images to the ACR. So in order to set up the DevOps, first we have to create the organization and create the project and provide the required permission. And to 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 connect the Azure DevOps into the Azure cloud, we have to create a service connection. For that, in Azure, we have to create a service principal by creating an average, and that is required to authenticate the DevOps to the Azure. You can see in my Azure DevOps, if you go to the project setting and service connection, I have already created one ACR service connection. You can see, not ACR. This is this ARM service connection. So if you can see here, this is the Azure service connection. I mean the Azure DevOps service connection, and it is created using Azure operates. I mean that is a service principal, and using that I have set up the service connection. So if you are going to create a new one, you can go to this new service connection, and you have to select Azure Resource Manager. The next step, you have to go here, and there are multiple options are available. So we can either select app registration or app registration with managed identity. So In my case, I have used app registration or managed identity. So for that, I have created a app reg, and using that, I have set up this service connection. Okay. So next step is, once that service connection is created, then we have to create our infrastructure pipeline. So here you can see this is the YAML file for that. So in order to create a pipeline in Azure DevOps, so here we use YAML, and we can see here there is a trigger. So how it will, the pipeline will be triggered. So that depends upon, it may be manual, it may be with any code changes. So here we are mentioned none. That means we are not automatically creating, triggering it whenever there is changes in any of the file in the directory. And we are using here the agent pool, that is Ubuntu latest. It is a Microsoft self-hosted agent, and we have defined our the script path, whatever we have mentioned here to create the resource group ACR and AKS, that we have mentioned here to execute it using a Azure CLI task. You can see here Azure CLI task, and this helps in executing this in the Ubuntu Microsoft hosted agent. And here we have some other variables I have declared here: artifact name, service connection that we have created, and we have the environment. So in this, in the current implementation, we have using only one environment, that is dev, but we can have multiple environments like test, QA, or staging, or prod. So that we'll see in our next lab, in future lab, how we can add multiple environments for deploying the or provisioning the resources. The next step is, we have included the stages. Under stage, the first stage is like we have to publish this script. So this script, whatever is there in our directory, it should be published. So we are using for that is publish pipeline artifact. Once that path or the file will be published, that can be downloaded in the deploy stage. This can be downloaded here, and it can be used in this Azure CLI task. So these are the steps we need to follow. And once that is created, the file is configured, then we have to create a pipeline in Azure DevOps. So for that, we can go to the pipeline here, and we can see I have already configured this. For that, you can see the infrastructure pipeline here. Infra pipeline. If you go here, you can see this is referring to the same file what we have just now discussed, that is under Azure DevOps infra pipeline. So how we can do, how we can configure that, it is easy. You can just go to the pipeline, you can click this new, create new pipeline, and we are using GitHub here. We can select that, and my repository is this one. So then we have to use the existing pipeline here. So here we can discuss, we can include the Azure DevOps infra pipeline. So once that, we can continue and we can save it as a infrastructure pipeline. That what I done like this under Kubernetes to infrastructure pipeline. So if we can go here to the this pipeline and can just run this. So here, if you can see, we have publish script stage and deploy resource stage. So we can use both and run it. So let's run this pipeline now to provision the resources in Azure Cloud. So it will take some time to provision the resources. So next step is we need to do the, okay, so once the infrastructure pipeline we have created, we just run the pipeline. Now once that is done, then we can log into the Kubernetes using Azure AKS get credential. The next step is we need to configure the pipeline for pushing the Azure content, by pushing the images to the ACR. So for that, we need to create three different pipelines here. You can see here order pipeline, product pipeline, and storefront pipeline. So let's go to the order pipeline. Here, I have declared few of the variables. You can see here, this is the service connection. And apart from that, also I have created a ACR service connection as well. So in this build pipeline, build stage, what we are doing, there is a task that will install the Docker in that agent machine. So we are using this Docker installer task to install the Docker desktop in that agent machine. Then uh, I have used template. So template is nothing, and it's a pipeline. It will call a pipeline where it will just build the Docker image and push it into the ACR. So these are the parameters I'm passing. So if you can go to the app templates here, build YAML here, I have written one Docker task, and it will receive all the inputs here, and using that it will just use the build and push task to um, build the image and post it to the Azure Container Registry. You can see this is the Azure Container Service connection name, and it will post that to this mentioned container registry. Okay. Similarly, for product also, we can see we have the build pipeline here. So it will build the pipeline, it will build the image, and next it will publish that. Also, it will publish the manifest files. You can see this is the manifest file. So this will publish this manifest file, and that can be downloaded in the deploy stage. You can see we have downloaded here. After downloaded, we can use the AzureCLI task here, and this will execute the manifest file using the kubectl command. You can see here kubectl apply, and we are for product service, we are using these two YAML files. One is the deployment YAML file, and the other one the service YAML file. But in this case, so this is same for all this order, product, and storefront YAML file. So we are for this, because for these three services we are creating the Docker images. So it has a build pipeline, so that will build the Docker images and push it into the Azure Container Registry and publish the artifact files. So once that is done, then the deploy stage will download that, and using Azure CLI task, it will execute the kubectl apply command to deploy into the AKS. So before doing that, you can see here the image tag. Here we are using build id, so it is a number. So we can see we are passing this as a parameter to this uh, build YAML. You can here it will be used tag name. So when it will create the image, the tag will be the build id. Okay. So whenever there is a change in our project or the application, it will automatically build with, and when there is a change in our application, it will automatically trigger the build pipeline. So it will tag the new build id with uh, the Docker image. Okay. So here what is happening, so it will create the Docker image with the build id as a tag, and in this here it will replace the Docker image with a new tag. We can see here in the manifest file, here we have not mentioned any tag here. If you go to the order also, we have not mentioned any tag here. So that will happen dynamically. So when we build our Docker images here, it will tag with a new build id, and that build new tag, it will be replace this product deployment or the order deployment with a new tag. I mean, it will just append with the new tag here. That will happen dynamically while it is deploying the images to the AKS cluster. So let's see whether our, let's close this one. Yeah, so you can see here this this is already run, and we can see it is successfully provisioned the resources. In the publish script artifact, you can see here we have the artifact. So it is the script file is there in the artifact, and this is being used here while it run this and provision the resources. Okay, now the next step what we'll go to do is we have to log into AKS cluster. So for that we can do You can execute login here. Okay, we can select this. It will allow to log into our cloud, Azure cloud. Just enter it, and the default I'll use the my default subscription. Then let use this variable's name. Okay, so here I have to use git pass instead of PowerShell. Okay, now let me, so these brackets are not available here, not required here. Okay, it will it will connect to the AKS cluster. Now create the alias for this, and if we'll use k get node, it should create, yeah, you can see this is our cluster node. Okay, so it is successfully created the AKS cluster. Now the next step is we need to log into our Azure content registry. Okay, and for that we can use this one. We can get, okay, so here we don't want to use that one. So for that, what we have to do, our order pipeline and product pipeline and store pipeline here, these three, we need to configure here. I have already explained that how it will create the images, and it will push the images to the ACR. So for that, let's just run those pipeline. You can go here again, pipeline under this. Yeah, you can see the order pipeline. You can go here and run this pipeline. If you run this pipeline, it will try to do two things here. On it has two stages. So the first thing is it will build the Docker images and push it into the ACR and publish the manifest file. And the second stage is it will download the manifest file, and using the AzureCLI task, it will append the new image tag uh, to the image that we image name that we mentioned in the deployment file. And yeah, uh, and then it will execute this kubectl command to deploy it into the AKS cluster. Okay, so okay, there is a error. What is that error? Let me just check. Okay, this is fail because if we just now we have provisioned the resources, but if you go to our service connection, I have this ACR service connection. I need to just update it because previously I have deleted it. Just I have to save it once more time. So yeah, it is done. Now I'll just rerun this pipeline again. Let me rerun this pipeline again here. Okay, rerun this and just wait for it to complete. Okay, so let it continue. So this what we have to need to do, we have to run all these three pipelines here. Let me do this parallelly because it will take some time. Let me go here to the pipeline, and let me run all this product pipeline as well. And we have the storefront pipeline. Okay, this is product pipeline. Also let it run, and this is storefront pipeline. You can run this one as well. And next, if you see, we have the RabbitMQ message queue pipeline. Here we don't have any Docker post because for this we are not creating the Docker image. We will directly refer it from the Microsoft container registry, as mentioned here. You can see we are not creating by ourselves, and we have also a config file. So for that also we are not creating any Docker image. Only we are publishing the manifest file, and that can be used here, and it will deploy into the AKS cluster. Okay, so let also run this pipeline, config my pipeline also the RabbitMQ pipeline. Okay, so this will take some time. So let me pause my video now. Hello, welcome back. So the deployment is completed. You can see here uh, the product pipeline is completed, both the build and publish stage as well as deploy stage. And here the storefront pipeline that is also completed. Config map pipeline that is done, and RabbitMQ pipeline, also the order pipeline. And if you see the Azure repository, I mean Azure Content Registry, you can see the order, product, and storefront. Docker images are already available. And if you go inside, you can see the tag is 278 for order. For product, it is 279, and storefront, it is this. So these are all dynamically added during our build pipeline. So that is got appended when the order pipeline, for example, we are passing this image tag, so it automatically take from the build id. Okay, and uh, and if now we'll see, uh, we'll use get pod. I have just verified it. Now if we see here get pod here, it will show all the four pods are running. Okay, and the services, if you want to display here, you can do that using get svc. Okay, you can see the storefront, and here this is the public ip. Okay, and if you want to browse this, we can use it here, and just pass 80 as port number. Yeah, so now the application is available. Okay, similarly we can also do a curl here, 80. You can see this is the application controls of pet stores. Okay, and that yeah, somewhere it will be written here. Yeah, controls of pet store. Okay, yeah, fine. So next, okay, we have deployed the Docker images with the tags. Like here, it took from the uh, build ID. So in order to check whether that is correctly deployed or not, that we can see by describing the pod. We can do k describe pod. For example, we'll take one pod here. For example, order pod we'll take here, and let it describe it. And if you see here the container id, and yeah, here you can see the image for the uh, order image. The tag is 278 that we have mentioned here. If you go here, you can see 278. So it is taking the correct tag, and it is deploying to the AKS cluster. Now the why we need this build id, and because whenever any of the application, if we change it, okay, for example, uh, in order service, if we want to do any change, uh, it should and the changes, if we commit, it should, the pipeline should trigger automatically, and it will build the Docker image and push it into the Azure ACR, and the same new image should be deployed into AKS cluster. So let's try that one. For that, if we go to the we can go to, we'll let change in the storefront in the index file. So here controls page store, let modify it. For example, I'll just put something here like new something I just added. Okay, now let me commit this change. Update index. Okay, now I'll just commit disable. Let's sync it. So here in, okay, I think I have not added this order pipeline, storefront pipeline. I have not added here. It is trigger is none, so it will not automatically trigger this. So let manually trigger this pipeline again. So what we have to do, this pipeline again will I'll run manually with the new changes. Just wait for a few minutes to run this. So it should create the Docker image again with the new build ID, and then it should deploy the new image with the changes what we have done to the cluster. And we'll check again by using the curl or browsing the application. We'll see the new change should reflect. And here, once we build this one, it will push another Docker image with a new tag into the Azure Container Registry. You can we can see it here. If go to order and we'll just refresh it, it will take some time. Maybe it is creating that one. It is building and building the Docker image. Wait for some time. Yeah, that is done. Now we can see. I think it should create. Sorry, not order. Yeah, storefront, not order. So it created new Docker images with 283 as the tag. Okay, new tag. Now let's wait for it to deploy again. It will take a couple of minutes to complete. Now we'll do a pod description for the storefront. Storefront. This is our. So if you see here, it is creating another object. I mean pod here. This is the new one. Still, it is not ready. Yeah, this is done. Deployment is done. Now, if we use this, and if we see the image, it's 283. It's taken the latest tag here, and you can compare it here. 283 is the latest one. Okay, and okay, yeah. So this is the new one. Okay, just now it got created. Yeah, this is the new one. This is FMXP something. Yeah, this is correct one. Now if we do, let again get the service, the public IP of the storefront load balancer. We can get it, get SBC. This is our IP. Now do a curl of this. Okay, you can see here, this is contoso pet store new. Okay, so the new changes, whatever we have done that for that we have run the pipeline. So it created a new Docker images with a new tag and the new image deployed into the AKS cluster, and our application again running with the new changes. But one thing that I have not done here is in the storefront pipeline, the trigger is none. That should be changed to the path uh, up storefront. It is done somewhere here, like okay, somewhere I mentioned. Okay, so that we'll see, but that is nothing. Just to mention the path to the storefront in the trigger, so that any changes will do to the application. So it is any of this application order service, product service, or storefront. If you do any changes to this folder and you have mentioned the trigger here to that particular path, then it will, our pipeline will be automatically build it, and it will create Docker images, push it to the ACR, and it will deploy into the AKS cluster, and so that we can browse our changes with the latest code or the I mean the new changes whatever we have done in using the application. Yeah, that's all. Here what we have done is the manually, I mean using the command line tools what we have done in our previous lab, that tasks we have moved to made it automate using Azure pipeline, and using that we are able to deploy the application without any command line tool, using any command line tool. Okay, thank you so much.